Now it's almost time for the big guy to make his rounds and start delivering presents, but the biggest question is, what does Santa carry? And I think there's only one really good option for him. So I laid out some parameters here that we're going to cover and things that Santa has to have and limitations that he has because of what he does. I'll cover some of those things and hey, some of them might surprise you. You might like some of them. Either way, I want to hear your opinion down below. What do you think the ideal carry gun for Santa would actually be? And if you like what I do, consider subscribing. Let's go and get into it. Now, the first thing I thought about, well, Santa's kind of an old school guy, so he's going to carry a 45, but not just any 45, the 1911. I mean, this is a two-time World War champion, and it is our longest serving military sidearm here in the United States, so I thought this would be a really clear winner right off the rip. One thing Santa has to consider is that he's traveling during the cold time of year, so a lot of burglars, robbers, they're going to be wearing jackets. And so he wants to be able to get through those layers if he has to defend himself. And 45 is going to do a really nice job, especially with a good hollow point. So he wants to leave that permanent wound cavity, and 45 is, like I said, it's going to do the job. Now this SIG 1911, this is one of the STXs. It's a really beautiful example, but it does have some things that Santa can utilize. First of all, it's got almost enough room in there for a gloved finger. I say almost, depends on how big Santa's hands are, but he should be able to utilize this gun because the trigger does sit back, far enough, skeletonized and all of that. Also, he's got some nice checkering on the front and back strap there, so he can get a pretty solid purchase. Now, this one isn't maybe ideal just because you have a blacked out rear sight. You do have a night sight up front. Santa needs night sights here, but I think he'd probably prefer having some night sights in the rear as well, so he makes sure he gets a solid lineup. But regardless of that, it's overall a pretty good option. Now, he can't really mount a red dot on this 1911 specifically, and his ammo is going to be limited. There's no spot for a rail, so you can't really put any kind of light or laser. We all know Santa does his best work at night, and even though most of the houses are lit where he goes, Santa definitely goes in some sketchy areas as well, so we need to take those parameters in account, and I thought, well, let's go to the FNX 45 Tactical. This thing is almost perfect for Santa when you think about it, because now he has the ability to mount a red dot, so low light, Santa's eyes are going out on him, so that's going to be very beneficial to him. He also has the high night sights here, so he can co-witness with that dot in case those batteries go out. He's got a decocker there and a safety, so, whichever way he wants to run this gun with a round in the chamber, and he's got way more room in the trigger guard to run a gloved finger. So even if in double action he doesn't, he could always drop that hammer, turn on safe, and now he has extra room in the trigger guard. He's also got a 1913 style rail, so he can run his light or laser, and his capacity is going to go up from 7 or 8 to 15 plus 1. Now, another thing Santa can do with this one specifically is he can actually put a suppressor on this one because he obviously wants to stay quiet. That's Santa's biggest thing. But we have the issue, first of all, of compliance. Santa isn't going to be able to travel around all 50 states with the FNX 45 Tactical, unfortunately. And is Santa really going to carry a suppressor in his back pocket as well? I mean, I'm sure he has room on his sleigh to store one, but I don't know that he's going to have time to make that swap. And there's also the issue of, the 1911, your 2011s, your FNX 45 Tactical. These are going to be big, heavy options. And even for a superstar like Santa, I think this is going to be a little bit too much gun for Santa to carry. Plus, he can't get presents to a lot of the kids in the United States. So I think we're going to have to drop the FNX 45 Tactical as well. The other gun that I thought about is the Shield Plus, because they do have a California compliant Shield Plus, and he's going to get a couple of things with this gun. He's going to get one of the best shooting Micro 9s on the market. If you're familiar with my channel, you know that this is my go-to. This is the one right here because it is such a good shooter. Also, he's going to get 10 plus 1 in the magazine. So again, we have a California compliant gun. Now that one, of course, is going to have the loaded chamber indicator. It's going to have the manual safety. But overall, he's going to get a really, really nice shooting gun. I think the problem is, though, he cannot have that red dot on top because the only compliant one they have is the non-optics ready version. And you got a little less room in that trigger guard to get a glove finger. You can do it, but if Santa's hands are bigger than mine, which I'm sure they are, he's going to have a tough time getting to that trigger. So those two things, I'm going to take the Shield Plus, and I'm going to say this is not Santa's preferred concealed carry. And then I thought about the equalizer. So this one uses the same Shield Plus magazines, so he's going to get 10+1. He's also going to get the rail, so he can put a light or a laser if he wants to. It's also red dot ready. And then I thought the equalizer from Smith & Wesson. There can't be a better option than this, because now we have a gun that's optics ready, and they do make compliant versions of the equalizer. I'm sure Santa at this point has some arthritis going on, and fortunately this one, just like the EZ, super easy to rack. It's got those nice deep serrations, so he's going to be able to charge this with gloves on, cold weather, warm weather, doesn't matter. He's going to be able to manipulate this gun. It also has the grip safety, so when he has it in his holster inside of his sleigh, you know, he can assure that he's going to be extra safe there. The compliant versions come with a manual safety too, so he's got a little bit more security if he wants it. Also, Picatinny rail there, so if he wants to mount a light or a laser, absolutely perfect. One of the best parts about this gun for Santa, as opposed to the Shield Plus, is we got even more room inside of that trigger guard, so now he can get a much better trigger pull. Now this one does not have night sights from the factory, and I think you would want those, but it is something that Santa could add on if he wanted to, and high enough to actually co-witness with something like the EPS carry. I really like this dot option for Santa because it's enclosed, and so he's not going to have to worry about, you know, snow and all that kind of stuff fogging up his dot. They actually do a really good job when it comes to stuff like that. But because he's only out for one night, I think the red dot and the battery life on this red dot specifically is going to do him just fine. He shouldn't have to worry about this thing dying off too quickly, so I think he would be fine even if this doesn't have night sights. The other thing, when we compare this to a 45, the penetration is going to be about the same, but it's not going to leave as big of a permanent wound cavity. But one thing he may want to do, obviously, is run hollow points, so HSTs or critical duties. Those things actually do a really good job as far as penetration. So that would probably be the way he would want to go as far as the round that he runs inside of the equalizer. The only problem here is that this is not a California compliant gun. They have compliant guns in other states, but California. So I think at the end of the day, Santa's going to have a little bit of trouble carrying a gun, and I think when he goes to California, he may just want to get in and out as quickly as possible. And fortunately, he's not going to have, you know, TSA checking his bags and all of that kind of stuff. I think he will be good to go, but at some point, he's going to have to bend some rules to be able to get those presents to kids in California. But I think this would probably be the best option for Santa to carry, the Smith & Wesson equalizer. For anybody else, this is also a fantastic option, along with the Shield Plus, which I think are the two best carry guns that are on the market right now, and I still believe that till this day. You know, I mean, we got to consider Santa's going to some pretty rough areas, you know, Detroit and Chicago and some of these other places. So I think he's might be willing to bend the rules a little bit to make sure those kids get their presents on time and safely. And I think the equalizer might be the best choice for Santa. Now the Shield Plus, the equalizer, these are all fantastic carry guns, even if you're not Santa, and you may have less things to worry about because you're not the big guy and you're not traveling to all 50 states. But there you go, man. There's my opinion. I think the equalizer is probably the best carry gun for Santa for those reasons. And of course, I'd love to hear from y'all. What do you think the best carry gun is for the big man himself? Let me know down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. Also, you can join us on Patreon or join the channel right here. Never have to leave YouTube. Big thanks. See you in the next one. And as always, hold 'em down.